Okay, good morning. Good morning. I think the best place to start is to thank Chris and James of weMove for facilitating, creating a space where we get to do this today, Katharina. And when the guys asked me, who would you like to interview if I was to hold a podcast, and my immediate thought was you. Says, I've got to interview Katharina, because I'm so in awe of what you do and the message you have. What we do. Well, I can't say that. That sounds like a massive ego. I'm so in awe of what we do. I'm so in awe of what you do and the message you have. And, and the reaction people have after spending time with you, especially parents, who you're empowering people, So I thought it was a great platform to be able to get your message out there. And I think, but before we get there, firstly, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, darling? Are you feeling up for this?
Yeah, I'm feeling very well and excited.
And we've got Tallulah here. So Tallulah's sitting down with us in true natural parenting style. So with a massive plate of food and some stickers. So we should be okay for a while. I think before we start dropping some parenting knowledge bombs, though, let's get a bit of background on who Katarina is. Yeah. How did it start, darling? How did we end up where we are now?
You mean with 4 children?
Yeah.
With 3 children?
Apart from the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
How did it start for you?
Well, I would start with my childhood. That was pretty normal.
Yeah.
There was no, some people have some amazing stories to tell from their childhood, but my childhood was just happy and normal. And I spent lots of time in nature. My parents gave me that education. Then my schooling was again just normal schooling, but since I was little, I always felt to be interested in people. I always wanted to understand my friends and understand adults, and maybe that's why I decided to study psychology.
Yeah.
And I felt sort of attracted to working with teenagers, and I wanted to work with children, and that's why I got into teaching as well. And because I didn't have that great memories. I mean, I had okay memories from school, but some memories weren't that great. And when I was in that position, when I was standing in front of the classroom, I always thought how to improve things and how to change things. So my interest in children and education and child development was basically in my early 20s. But then I slightly got off the path because I started paying more interest in me and trying to understand me when I went through a little crisis in my early 20s. But then I wanted to continue in my studies even when I was in UK, when we met. I wanted to be educational psychologist, or I wanted to be a psychotherapist. But then we ended up expecting Lola.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
the universe provided.
Yeah, and I still thought, I can still be mother and I can still study. I can continue my studies, but I just felt so happy to be with our baby. And even though I got offered help from your mom and from you, Katarina, you need to study, just let us look after your baby, I just wanted to be with her. I just didn't like the idea that you would take her for a walk and I would express the milk, and I just wanted to be with her, and I just wanted to learn how to be with her, and I was happy that way. And when we had Millie, when Lola was 2 and we had Millie, I decided to kind of give up on the studies and just be with our children. But then, even when Millie was 3 and Lola was meant to go to school and Millie was meant to go to nursery, I still had those tendencies of, come on, you can't be just home-staying mom. You need to be doing something. You need to change your career. You need to, get a job. But then we decided to homeschool. And I think homeschooling was the right thing for me, really. Made me feel, I just realized that the lifestyle we lead, that I am around our kids, homeschooling, learning from them, talking about it, it really suits me and makes me feel happy.
Wow, there we go. And it's about happiness, right? But I think we need to back it up, because I think we need to go back to what I thought. Because when people say to me, Tony, you've done so much spiritual work, you've done this, you've done that. What has Katarina done? Has Katarina been down this path? And so for me, from your explanation, it felt like you'd had a massive spiritual awakening in childbirth. Can you go through that? Do you mind discussing that?
Yeah, so
what the experience was?
Yeah, I would say that kind of my spiritual path started a little bit again in my early 20s when I had my crisis, when I was just questioning the world around me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't happy. Like many people describe, I just wasn't happy with the state, with the meaning that I should just go to work and earn money and every day happens the same and every year happens the same. And why are we doing it? And then we have children and send them to school and our children do the same. I didn't like it. I didn't feel like that's what I was destined for. That idea didn't make me happy. So that's where I slowly started kind of looking for deeper meaning of my life. Yeah. But in terms of the child, the question that was bothering me for many years, because I was so raised, I had religious education, but then I gave up on religion, but yet I was looking for spiritual meaning of my life, accepting all the religions in the world, not just one particular. So when I was giving birth to Lola, we were in the birth center, and there was a trainee midwife with us, do you remember? And I think because she was trainee and she was a student, she sort of allowed me to have more gas and air than she was probably meant to, because women are meant to have gas and air when they are in the painful contraction, then take break from it. But because I was sort of just enjoying the gas and air so much, I was breathing in too much oxygen. And actually, when we did later work with Alan Dolan, the transformational breath, and he explained what happens to you when you take too much oxygen in your brain, you kind of can be a bit out there. I think that's what happened to me. I just had lots of... the gas and air allowed me to have...
Out of body.
Yes, to take lots of oxygen and be a bit out of body. And I suddenly realized, oh, wow, I love this feeling. I was like, the contraction doesn't bother me. I was in the pool and I loved the pool. And your voice and the voice of midwife sounded like really distant and blurred. And I felt as if I was like in a different dimension, a bit out of my body, seriously. And I had this crazy idea, because I realized I was in a different state of mind. I had this crazy idea, maybe I can connect with something that is out there that will answer my questions. And my question, because I challenged my own belief in God and who is God and, the position of Jesus in my life. It was always bothering me for years. So I had this crazy idea asking, God, do you exist? Tell me, give me an answer. Does God exist? Is that meaning of my life truly? Am I meant to believe in God? And the answer, I would say, I got given, or the answer that came again just from inside of me, or was, consciousness expressed from inside of me, or the answer that was always inside of me, but I couldn't enter it, was, Katharina, do not ask questions you will never find an answer for. Concentrate on things you have to do now, and be a mother. You are delivering a child. Just give birth to this child and be a mother. And then I gave up on all these crazy spiritual ideas I had from the gas and air, and I realized, yes, I have to be back in my body. I have to go back into my body. I have to go back to my contractions, back to my pain, and I have to deliver this baby. And then Lola was born shortly after that, because it was dragging for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a totally different experience for me, not being high on gas and air and having a spiritual experience.
You didn't know what was going on.
No, I had no idea. It was like watching someone's ceremony. And you're like, oh, what the fuck? What's going on?
Well,
and then
you
they're
described it a bit like...
Yeah, exactly.
As if I was on drugs. That's what you said.
It's just very, very powerful to witness it anyway. But to think that was going on is it's insane, isn't it?
That was meaning for me.
But I guess that's the primal stage of birth that people enter, right?
I guess so. I think, but then later with Millie and with Tallulah, when I was it's the last stage of delivery when you can't fake things. You're so dependent on what is going on in your body, what nature is going on in your body. You just have to. It's like a process. You just have to give yourself into it. There is
acceptance.
There is nothing you can rationalize. There is nothing you can do. You just have to listen to your body and breathe and follow the contractions and follow the urge to push, and you just know the baby's coming, and you just trust your body, and you know it's happening. It's a very deep experience. Yeah, it's like just giving yourself out there.
Yeah.
You know.
But I guess that's where the difficult path is now, isn't it? Because we're talking about innate abilities again, aren't we? And trusting that process and being able to sit in it and
you
trust
fully trust the process. Yeah.
But we don't necessarily have the appropriate experiences to observe.
Yeah.
That have come before that. So your mother's version of childbirth, let's say, would be different, right?
Yes, it can be very traumatic for many people. Yeah.
Childbirth. So they would take the babies away, even put them onto another ward and drug the parents. The mothers are drugged up to the eyeballs, lying there so they get a good night's sleep, and the babies are removed from them. So it's a very different experience again. So we're in a lucky, fortunate enough position where we can go and have natural birth, and we can do birthing at home. We can go to natural birthing centres.
Yes,
but they didn't have that.
So
there's a bit of a blur, isn't there, between what we consider natural birthing today and I guess even where it was previously.
Well, we are lucky, our generation, that we have this chance to reconnect with nature, and we have chance to reconnect with the innate abilities we possess and go back to it and rediscover the power of it in our modern world.
Yeah, because we go through the birth, so let's just stay with birth then. So that's Lola. So then Millie was a completely different experience, and Tallulah was a very different experience again. So it's almost like gaining through the experience, of course, and the knowledge you have. It's like that. It's a wisdom, isn't it, with childbirth?
You gain wisdom and you gain trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not that innate, because our condition. It is innate, but our conditioning is so strong, and the stories we hear. And when I was little, I was told when woman gives birth, she's 50% in a grave and 50% alive. Because it became such an issue giving birth. And my mom heard I was going to give birth at home. She nearly fainted. But so we have to rediscover it, the innate abilities. We have to enter it again, and the hypnobirthing can help there a lot. Like, let's say you helped me a lot just by reminding me of my own breath. With Millie, you did.
Yeah, and there was a process with Millie as well, though, wasn't there? Because Millie was breached right before birth. They discovered.
Yeah, she was breached, and they called ambulance.
And they call an ambulance. The ambulance waits outside the
house.
But
what was going on in my head was, no way I'm going to ambulance.
Yeah.
I was, this baby has to be born. And she was born.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't allow the fear to creep in,
And I think that's what the message seems to come forward. So there's many women that I know that have gone down this path and said, right, I'm going to have a natural birth. I'm going to have a birthing pool. This is going to happen. And then they go through that phase, and there's a phase, isn't there, where you said it gets ramped up, where the experience is heightened and the pain's higher, and you're questioning whether you think you can go through it.
Yeah, there is a last stage when you feel very tired, and you think you can't go on anymore.
Yeah.
But that's a sign that the baby is close now. Yeah, that's the stage probably when women need the greatest support. Again, to be reminded of their breath work, to be told by a midwife that they can do it. Because in that stage, it can happen that woman can break down, and the social conditioning kicks in, and the fear kicks in, and yes, because the rational brain is completely switched off in that last stage. So it's the conditioning is the deep subconscious stuff that starts controlling your body. Yeah. That's why the breath work is very important, because it relaxes us.
Yeah, because all those stories of childbirth being like giving birth to a bowling ball or a watermelon or something like that, all that's terrible
it's
programming. I mean,
that's unnecessary.
incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in that last stage of childbirth, they're the stories that are flashing up for women, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when the epidurals come in and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so let's talk about Tallulah's birth then, because that was a very different experience, right? How was that? How did that work out?
Well, we were more confident, weren't we?
Yeah.
The trust was there. I did lots of hypnobirthing before having Tallulah, more than with Millie and Lola actually. And I was playing the music that I was listening to during hypnobirthing. I was actually playing the music through the whole delivery process again and again and again, and I think that helped a lot. And I had experience with the breath work, Alan Dolan's breath work, and I was using that a lot. So I was in
bringing transformational breath.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, opening your
into
jaw
childbirth.
and
Amazing.
taking lots of oxygen in and relaxing your jaw. That's important. So I was so relaxed and confident with Tallulah. It was the last stage was very quick. So when I told you, call midwife, you called midwife. But the baby was born before she even managed to come.
Yeah.
Very quick. And when you said, okay, Katharina, I can see the head. I didn't panic, did I? You didn't panic neither.
No.
I just said, that's fine, Tony, that's fine. Just hold her head.
Yeah.
And then you waited. There was like an awkward moment, but you have to wait when your body tells you push. You can't push without your body telling you. And she came out.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I said, just put her on my tummy, cover her. And the midwife knocked at the door.
Yeah, amazing.
And we weren't scared, were we? So,
there's no fear there.
But I don't think we could have done it with our first daughter, you know?
No, that's what I mean, because there isn't a template, an observation now.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost what's missing with the process, because we have natural birthing units, but there isn't the, it almost would need an audience.
What do you mean?
Do you know what I mean? Like the birthing experience would need an audience for people to have the appropriate template to observe childbirth. So like if your kids are at childbirth, so us saying, well, we wanted Lola and Millie in the house at the same time to witness it, so they're not hearing screaming and, you know, giving birth to a bowling ball experience,
we have to reduce on the negative stories and a bit, you know, boost up the positive stories to make people believe that it is possible. I think that's the first step. Yeah. And of course, you know, some babies need help and some women, they need to be saved and they need to go to hospital. But I think there could be much smaller percentage of those cases in comparison to natural birth.
Well, it's anything natural, isn't it? So you think obviously this is weMove, so we talk about movement. So there's natural movement, isn't there, that we can all relate to now. We understand there's a natural way of moving, which is going to be more efficient, less risk of injury, and lead to appropriate behaviour and better health, right?
Yeah.
And well-being. And if we look at the very acorn of everything, it has to be the birthing experience, right? So the more aligned that is with nature, the more natural the experience, the more natural the being, and the more natural the outcome, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to read you something because you wrote this. And I really love this, right? So this is, when I was developing a website, so this is the parenting stage of the website, Katarina wrote this. Rather than trusting our tribal elders, like grandparents and parents, we often turn to the internet or read books for parenting information. Among many philosophies and theories, there is one true ancestral teacher that parents can choose to listen to, and that is Mother Nature. There we go. Learning from nature involves learning from your own child as well as guiding them. Nature programs every child to develop capacities well beyond our imagination, and it is mainly up to parents to provide their children with an environment where they are allowed to follow their innate forces and where a natural plan can unfold. There we go. Do you remember writing that?
Yeah, I remember, yeah. When we were doing the website.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the environment. How do we set up a natural environment for children?
You mean for a childcare?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, for parenting. To allow the child's natural abilities to unfold.
Well, you and I, we got inspired by when we talk about natural, we think about people who live in nature, basically.
Yeah.
So like people lived for millions of years as hunter-gatherers, but these days how people live in some tribes in some parts of the world, that's what we relate to as nature. So we got inspired by the book Continuum Concept by Jean Lidloff, didn't we?
Brilliant book.
Yes. And it basically makes you think what we always thought when before we had children or while we had children, we always thought, okay, so what did people do before we developed pushchairs and bottles and all the modern things we have? What did they do? How they would do it in nature? Yeah. So in terms of the birth, in nature you would look for a calm environment, quiet. So that's why the labor ward with lots of lights and not fresh air and chemicals around you isn't the best. Is not the best copy of nature, we should say, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, well, let's say you say we can't live in nature, but it doesn't mean we can't live naturally. So let's say staying at home and be quiet, calm. Some people like using calming smell, calming music that imitates the nature. Having somebody you trust, it can be, nice midwife with you, birthing partner, that helps women relax and imitate the nature in terms of giving birth. In terms of children, it's the baby carrying, co-sleeping, breastfeeding, right? That's what people would do in nature. They didn't have pushchairs, they didn't have bottles. Baby-led weaning, because there were no blenders and mashes. Children.
So let's unpack each one of those, because for the audience or for people that are considering having children or might be pregnant now, some of this stuff's new to them, and it might be to even Chris, right? Baby-led weaning, So let's start maybe with the, what would you say would be the appropriate environment for childbirth? And let's start there.
At home, calm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Lighting.
Yeah, calm, dim lighting. Yeah, well, during the day, you of course, you just accept it's the day. But of course, during the night, I wouldn't put the bright lights on. We had always turned lights off, didn't we? Just a little lamp in the corner during the night. Calm music.
Safe.
Woman has to have a feeling of safety.
So it's building that trust and safe zone.
Or birth centers are quite good, Apparently, there are some labor wards who try to help to imitate that environment. Yeah,
and there's stuff I've looked at, because I'm really deep into like the microbiome and understanding that experience. So there's stuff on, if you look at the tap water that maybe has chlorine in it, probably the birthing pool isn't the best position to be giving birth in.
Yes, that's what we discovered later on.
Because Katarina was in the birthing pool, we didn't give birth in the birthing pool.
Yeah.
But if you are giving birth in a birthing pool, we have to consider, right, okay, what's the water, the chlorinated water, going to be doing for the microbiome?
Yeah.
And the baby's first experience of microbiome, or its first microbiome it picks up, is from the mother. So as the head comes out, turns towards the anus and picks up not only bacteria from the vaginal canal, but from the anus, right? So that's then the foundation of your baby's bacteria.
Yeah.
So just consider that, really, if there's anyone out there listening, but the birthing pool's great, I think, to get lost in, but maybe not considering actually giving birth in there. Someone might pull me up on that, but that's my view on it at the moment, understanding microbiome, that you just washing that stuff away.
I guess it's not ideal. Chlorine water is not ideal,
No.
We learned,
And then breastfeeding, of course, because then breastfeeding leads into feeding microbiome, right?
Yes. And we learned that apparently it takes 3 years to establish the full microbiome for children. Yeah. So that's why if we hear that mothers would breastfeed happily up to the age of 3 and even longer, it makes sense then, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah, because the breast milk is especially designed to feed the first microbiome in
like the bifidobacterium is fed through certain properties in breast milk.
Yes,
right?
But that's not the only reason why people should breastfeed, That's one of many reasons. It's the attachment.
Emotional brain.
Yeah, creating an attachment with the baby. And also it's the best food for children, first months is the best for their stomach.
Yeah, which then brings us into baby-led weaning. So we could break it down into that. We could also discuss like the first 3 years of life, right? So 3 years of life, or first 1,000 days. So last trimester in the womb plus 3 years is 1,000 days. That's our emotional brain development, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, Tutu. So then what food groups we put in there? Why is that important?
Well, we found out, because of the book we got given, the baby-led weaning, we found out that we shouldn't really rush, because it's very fashionable to start giving children, put oats into the milk when they're 4 months old, or rice.
Yeah.
But we found out we shouldn't push it really. If they start just with solids at 6 months, that's really enough. And I guess, again, if you follow the nature, the child lets you know. So when they sit on your lap and they watch you eating, they start naturally grabbing for food.
Yeah.
And around 4 months is like their interest in food is could be compared in interest in any toy. 4 months old baby would grab any toy and put it in their mouth. So if they see broccoli or carrot on your plate, they see it as a toy. So they grab it and would put it in their mouth, but they don't really eat it. They don't really bite it.
They just gum it.
They sort of gum it and let it go, and probably they realize that toys taste differently than what mom and dad have on their plate, slowly. But at 6 months, they start gumming things. Yeah, so we always allowed our children to mush their own food between fingers, which again, if you listen to some people who talk about how important are our senses for our digestion, all the mushing and playing with it, you could argue that it prepares baby and their gut, their stomach acids for digesting their first food groups, right?
Yeah, of course, like their enzymes and their digestive enzymes.
Yeah, so they would play with avocado, banana, apple, steamed broccoli. That was the first things we used to give them. We would never give them grains.
No.
Because they can't chew grains. So, in contrast to conventional
social norm,
who would give children crackers and rice and
breadsticks.
Start with porridge, baby porridge. We didn't start with that. We gave them porridge when they were able to hold the spoon, which was around 10 months, probably 11 months.
Yeah, but also, because there's baby-led weaning, isn't there? Which is based on a social norm. So even to pick up the book Baby-Led Weaning, there's still breadsticks in there and things that babies can
they believe in children's ability to mash their own food and play with it, so there is no spoon feeding.
Yeah.
That's the baby-led feeding.
But then you should go further and add nature's filter to that.
We wanted to go further, thinking, how can we give children bread at 6 months? Yeah, let's just give them fruit and veg.
Yeah, real food.
Yes. Well...
Not farmed in that sense.
Yes. What would you get in wild nature? Yeah.
So fruit, veg, and then a little bit of wild fish and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
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 And a bit of egg.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So almost like what I considered as, I think I was calling it at that time like the primate diet, because their gut was so young, it's like a primate gut.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think because people for millions of years were on primate diet, children should start with primate diet.
Yeah.
Supplemented, of course, with the breast milk.
Of course.
Yeah. So the child should have a bit of solids, but then have as much breast milk they want, because they need it to, top up on their nutrition.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry they don't eat enough, because they still have lots of breast milk until they are 1 or even 18 months old. And then people started farming.
Yeah.
Yes, which would introduce the grains and pulses.
Yeah.
And that's when we thought, okay, when they're a bit older, they can slowly be introduced to gluten. We always started with gluten-free grains.
Yeah.
Yeah. And bit of they like red lentil soup and things like that.
But then we also put that through a soaking process, so it's easier on their enzymes.
Everything is soaked and or fermented or yeah. All the pulses and grains are soaked in our house.
Because it's basically the pulses and the grains have to be soaked because of the digestion system, right? It's much harder.
Because it helps us to digest it easier. Yeah.
It starts the process already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to summarize that, so we're looking at breastfeeding for 3 years, if of course you can, as a mother. But
well, it's not possible for
but
everyone.
what if you
but
can't?
if
Exactly,
you
that's where I want to
can.
go. So it's one of those things. So there's other information there around if you are expressing milk, is to put the AM and PM milks on there. So if you're breastfeeding in the morning, it's AM time.
Because of the hormones.
Choose the AM milk
Yeah.
that you've expressed, maybe the day before, whenever you're doing it. And if it's a PM milk, just because of hormones.
Yes, because the morning milk wakes them up and the evening milks get them asleep.
Yeah.
So what mums express in the morning, children should be given in the mornings, and what they express in the evenings, they should be given, yes, because of the hormones in the milk. Fascinating, isn't it?
It really is. So then you've got to think there's the microbiome that you're looking to increase by breastfeeding. That reaches maturity at the age of 3. There's the emotional attachment to the child as well, breastfeeding, and having that connection for their emotional development, which takes 3 years to fully emotionally evolve.
Well, it's a long process, but...
Then there's also, then what else is there if you think about that? So if you go back into continuing concept, co-sleeping and baby carrying.
Yeah.
So let's go through co-sleeping for people who aren't really sure about that one. Because there's loads of fear around that, right?
Yes, again, lots of fear.
And again, we're educated that you put your children in a room. There's one end of the scale, right? So you have Gina Ford, that's one end of the scale, which is you leave your child in a room crying until they just stop
Gina
crying,
Ford.
and then you leave them there, which I don't know how anyone can go through that process. It's just heart-wrenching.
It is.
You wouldn't do that to anyone, would you?
No.
And then there's continuing concept, which is then sleeping with your children.
Yes.
Well, that's an element of it, of continuing concept, which is co-sleeping. Yeah.
Well, I would say, yes. Then the only thing I would say that if parents, some parents want to or they have to create some kind of sleeping habits with their babies because they want to have childminders or they need to go back to work. I would just say that it's important at least the really close contact, the carrying and co-sleeping, at least 3 months, And if people want to do it later or, if they want to train their babies for cot, just do it later. Don't do it right from the beginning. The attachment right at the beginning is very important. But of course, we decided just to let our children do it at their own speed. So we never trained them, did we?
No.
So they still sleep with me.
So here we are. We have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old in the bed.
And
a new one on the way.
We're fine with it, and we're not creating any damage to them. I don't feel our children are damaged at all,
No.
or they don't lack any confidence, or they don't have any social issues. They're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And we are fine with that. Of course, some families are not, but you can always train your child to sleep in a cot when they're 2. You can do it at the age of 1. You can do it at the age of 3. You don't have to do it when they're newborn.
Or you can wait for them to make the decision when they want to leave the bed.
Yeah,
right?
and some kids actually do it faster,
Yeah.
Some kids do leave the bed quite early, yeah. I don't know why, but they just make the decision. I definitely wouldn't do it with a newborn baby.
No. Okay, and what about the environment of sleep?
Well, that's your area of expertise, isn't it? Talking about air and light and everything. But there is one thing we should say, because you talk a lot about blue light in the
go
evening.
on, well done. Boom.
Yeah?
I just want to hear how
And
much
I
you've been listening to me.
remember when Lola was born and she was crying after 6 p.m., she was crying. And you can hear many parents saying that the baby cries after 6 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m. They cry and cry and cry. And people would usually call it colic.
Yeah.
So Lola got into this. She was fine during the day always, wasn't she? But in the evening she started crying, and we had light on, and you put her underneath the bulb and you said, look, she likes looking at the light. It keeps her calm. And Lola's eyes, you can see the newborn eyes, they just kind of confused. They just keep looking everywhere.
You're basically giving them sunrise at
yeah,
sunset.
And I looked at her face and I thought, no, Tony, she doesn't actually like the lights. It just distracts her from crying for a few seconds, and then meh again.
Yeah.
So definitely bad idea.
Yeah, nowhere near the blue light.
To have bright light on.
Lola
after
was
6
unfortunately
PM.
our guinea pig in that situation.
But we learned quickly after I was given this big book. I found the book, The Baby Sense, and I learned about overstimulating babies and the sensory input.
Yeah.
And after that, she was fine. She didn't cry because I knew that after 6 p.m. she has to be in dark, or at least in dimmed room. And with Millie and Tallulah, we were smarter than that. We knew. So do you remember when Millie was born and she started that cry, that evening cry? You just know it can last forever. I just took her into dark room, completely dark room, and just rocked her and rocked her and rocked her. And I think it went on for 2 weeks. She cried like for 20 minutes, but that was it. Otherwise, we had no crying baby in the house. Yeah. So the evening light, don't overstimulate babies. Very important. Also, if they cry during the night, don't put the light on and feed them. Just try to do it with really low amber light. Create the, like you call it, the candlelight or firelight experience. So that's the nature in the house, isn't it?
Yeah.
The right environment to keep the baby's hormones.
Well, keep the circadian rhythm, right?
Yes.
Because they're more in line, more in tune with that than anyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you what you recommend to people, amber glasses and everything. That's what I would then say to parents, you know?
Yeah.
They need to understand. It's good to understand it, yeah.
Yeah. I think we need to talk about the relationship as well, because when it comes to co-sleeping, there's a lot of fear around that, isn't there? It's like, oh, well, what about our sex life? What about this? You know, and we have to people have to understand that too. It's like, well, you're co-sleeping, so that means you're all together in the same room.
I got asked that question, and I sort of, because it was never my problem. I don't know about you, but for me, it was never my problem. I never saw...
To drive me insane. No, I'm joking.
I never saw the sleeping baby in the bedroom as a problem.
No.
I never did, really. So I actually think, if I think about it, I actually think it's a bit sad if the only way a couple can imagine to be together or to reconnect together is after 7 p.m. in their bedroom.
Yeah,
you know?
if that's the only time they find for intimacy.
There are so many other opportunities during the day, and not just for, you know, intimate sex life. I mean, for conversation, reconnection. For me, it's talking, you know, talking to know what you're going through, you know, to share the life. So bedroom just for us after 7 p.m. is not the only space to maintain the relationship. There's, you know, just we have to be more creative and open-minded, and
which is far better for the relationship anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty sad if you can only find that time in that small window.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's pretty sad. We have to be more open-minded and creative. Like,
you have to behave like teenagers.
I mean, how our ancestors survived.
Yeah.
You know, our ancestors survived, and they always had kids around them. They slept in one room for how many years? And we don't have to go as far as hunter-gatherers. Even like if I go 200 ago in Slovakia, people lived in one cottage. They slept in one cottage and cooked in one room and slept in one room with children, and they had eight kids. So, you know, the fact that they lived in one room and slept with 7 kids in one room didn't really stop them from having 8 children. Yeah? So
never deterred them.
Yes, I think just that's not a problem to me. No. It's the small bed. Let's say when you have 2 children and you have small bed, the kicking and fidgeting, that might be a problem later. But we just got a big bed.
Yeah, and also we have I think kids also have a room that, you know, for me, I have such early starts sometimes.
Yes.
And then it's just impossible. So I just choose to go into a
spare
room
is a very good
sleep
idea
separately.
as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and also there's what I understood about stress hormones. So from Joseph Chilton Pearce's work, another inspiration there, was about the heart rhythms. So for the mother's heart rhythm, the child's heart rhythm. Do you remember? So
yes,
they can literally do like an ECG.
Yes, the heart, because the child is always close to the mother, their hearts beat in the same frequency.
They have the same heart rhythm.
Yes.
And if you take the child more than 12 feet away from the mother, the baby will become incoherent.
Yes.
So the baby becomes stressed the moment it's removed from its mother up to 12 feet away. So if you then apply that to what we discussed earlier, the Gina Ford model, it's insane,
yeah,
right?
She's not that popular anymore, so we don't have to criticize her that much.
No, I'm just saying as an example, because I find it's just insane.
Yeah, it was insane. Yeah.
And where I want to go with that, so as a father, let's say, and you're lacking in sleep, and you're tired and you now have more responsibility, and with that suddenly comes there's a lot of fear and it can be a lot of stress, and then you bring in what can be your commute possibly into the house and the stress of that walking into the home, that it's probably not always wise to be co-sleeping in that space because of your stress hormones. That's where I was going to go. That's what I read in Josie Chilton Pierce's work.
Yeah.
Is as the father, it's not always great for him to be walking into that co-sleeping environment if there's a lot of stress around.
Yeah.
It's to almost keep yourself separate of it. So as a father position is to manage your stress. But what we're working with now, which is things like breath work and meditation, I think we can probably flip that.
Yeah. What I would like to mention, because these days it's so fashionable for moms to say, because of all these equalities, moms think, oh, no, father has to take a equal amount and equal responsibility to look after the child, which I absolutely agree with. But again, we don't have to, as soon as the baby is born, we don't have to rush into expressing milk so the dad can give them milk, or we don't have to ask the fathers to carry the babies straight away, because but I can talk just from my own feeling. Actually, I didn't want you to carry the baby. I didn't want you to give bottle to the baby. I wanted to do it. And especially first 3 weeks is very strong. I rush my shower, like I take shower for 1 minute, and then I just constantly have to be with the baby and watch the baby's face and listen to the cues and kind of have the baby close to me. And it's very strong for first 3 months for me as well. And after 3 months, I start relaxing a bit because the baby becomes more, I would say that the baby becomes more obvious to other people. So the communication, the way the baby is communicating, other people become more sensitive to it. They start seeing it. The baby might be hungry, or the baby is not happy. They can see it on baby's face. But I think that the first weeks, nobody can see it, just me.
Yeah, because it's intuitive.
Like your mom, she wanted to cuddle the babies and everything, but I said, no, she is hungry. Yeah. I knew if I don't take that baby and don't keep the baby with me and feed it, that baby is going to cry in 2 minutes. I knew it. I can feel it, So to me, I personally wouldn't like a father taking equal responsibility in waking up during the night and feeding the baby and carrying the baby as me. I want to do it myself, first months. And
to establish that real bond.
To establish the real bond, and I also feel that naturally I'm designed to be really sensitive to that. And I think the dad isn't, because, I think naturally what I expect from the man is the looking after me, the protection, to make sure we have full fridge and we have something to eat, and I don't have to be like, if you are stressed out, I don't have to be stressed out. I'm in that lovely protected bubble, calm and happy, so I can really establish the strong attachment with our baby. And then of course the days move on and the baby is growing and the baby wants to be with the dad or with any childminder or grandma or whoever is close and nearby.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Which is establishing roles within it, right? It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's my own perception, my own feeling.
So then in that bond and in that attachment, you're really establishing what the child's needs are.
Well, the way I understand it, the way I sort of explain the attachment explained to me, as soon as the baby is born, the baby communicates. Yeah, so the baby communicates, and we are naturally designed to listen to the communication. Yeah, so I can see when the baby wants to feed, not just because the baby is crying. Crying is too late for me. I can see the baby wants to feed before the baby even starts to cry. I can see it on their mouth.
When you say see, do you see or you feel?
I can see it on the face.
Okay.
I can see it and probably feel it on the face by the way how they move their head, how they smack their lips, how I just feel the body is like I feel when the baby is calm and relaxed, and when the baby starts getting agitated.
Yeah, what they're communicating.
How they start moving with their hands and legs. And I know that's the time to pick the baby up, feed the baby, get the baby asleep. And that's why our babies didn't cry.
Yeah.
They didn't cry, right? Whole days, whole nights, they didn't cry.
Yeah.
We didn't have crying babies. And so when the mother gets so attached to the baby and understands the communication, and with Tallulah we realized she even was communicating the need to go for pee or poo.
We're gonna get to that.
So you can be, as a mother, you can be so attached that you understand your baby so deeply. You know when they need to go to toilet, you know. So then the attachment and the bond grows as children are growing. So if a child at the age of 2 throws a tantrum because we are attached to them, we know what's going on. We know why there is a tantrum. We know it's not just some kind of a silly, naughty behavior. We understand the deep feeling behind it. And, and we grow with our children and we move on. And when our children are 16 or 17 or 15, when parents usually go, oh, they are teenagers, we don't understand them. I believe because we are so attached to them, we will understand them. There is nothing like a generational gap when suddenly parents can't relate to their children.
Yeah, because
there is long-term attachment.
Yeah, we do everything with them in that sense.
Yes.
They're part of a tribe rather than separate.
Or like so many times you just look at our kids and you say, oh, Lola, what's going on? You just see it on her face. Like you just see there is something. And she may even say, no, everything is fine. But we know.
Yeah, so we say, no,
we
actually,
just
come on,
feel
Lola.
it, right?
Tell us.
Yeah. And we feel it, like Millie, if she might be a bit like maybe mean or, she might be doing things, but we know it's because something is going on inside of her. We can feel it. That's the attachment we have.
Yeah, but I think that's also operating as one, like it's one tribe feeling, isn't it? That was where I was going to go. I remember going around to people's homes for dinner. Yeah. And they'd invite us around for dinner parties, and we'd get there and they'd have 2 tables set up. So one table is set up for the kids to eat at with kids' food, and the adult table have an adult table with adult food, right? It's so separate. Yeah. So all the kids, so we brought the kids, so we had Lola and Millie with us for the meal, and then the other kids are put to bed, and the parents spend most of the evening getting up from the table and going up to see if the kids are all right, because the kids are messing around, they want to be downstairs. Yeah. Whereas Az just fell asleep on our laps at the table, and it's just being part of it, and then they go to bed, and then you don't have this toing and throwing, it's involving them in everything you do, I guess.
Well, and again, if we want to compare it to nature, a tribe would gather around the fire, so you wouldn't have the blue light, You would have the firelight, which sets everybody's hormones the right direction, and children wouldn't be told, okay, now you kids go to bed, and as adults we're going to continue sitting at the fire.
Because we need me time.
Because we need us time, exactly. Kids would be allowed to be around the fire.
And that's where they observe the behaviors of the adults, right?
And also because their hormones were calmed, they would just naturally fall asleep. Again, if we want to mimic the same under many bulbs and loud music, no, children are not going to naturally fall asleep because there is blue light in the room, and they may push it. Yeah, they will be awake, and then they will be overtired and they will cry. Yeah. Whereas with the firelight, children would just sit on people's laps and fall asleep, and adults would carry them into.
The elders take them off to sleep.
Their huts. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds idyllic, isn't it? Yeah, and I guess again that's about observations, isn't it? About observing the appropriate behaviour. So where can we go? Let's have a look at play. What about play? Because I'm fascinated with Peter Gray, and you like Peter Gray's work, right? And so what I was writing about a play chapter is they've observed. They asked the question to 10 anthropologists: what does childhood look like in nature? Yeah. So they looked at 3 independent tribes, different geographic locations. And the children are playing from infancy through to the age of 16. This goes back into observations. And they learn everything they need to learn about the adult world through states of play without any adult intervention. So the kids are just playing. So there's no adult intervention. It's not adult-led. It's purely child-led. Yeah. Which is kind of the way I see it, what we do with our kids. But you're facilitating that, or creating the appropriate environment for it.
For me,
so
let's say...
run through that?
Yeah. So I remember even when I was a little kid, I was 9, and the teacher was telling us, she was a lovely teacher, and she was telling us, yes, children should learn through play. She was emphasizing it, and she was saying, but sometimes as teachers, we can't allow it. We can't always have fun. Sometimes we just have to do boring things at school, and we have to practice so you can pass your exams and do things. But it would be lovely if children could all the time at school learn through play. And it's stuck in my memory since then, since I was 9. And then when I was in a teaching position, I was kind of asking, yes, what does it mean children learn through play? So I was inventing educational games for my students because I wanted them to have fun in the classroom. And I believed if they have fun, they learn. But it didn't go exactly that way. And with our children, I was doing the same. When we decided to homeschool, I thought, okay, I will invent games for them. And I even bought games for them because I hoped they can learn mathematics, they can learn literacy, they can learn counting, they can learn time through playing games. But they not always did. They found those games boring, or they found them interesting at the beginning and then they found them boring. Or usually they would like to change the rules. So they didn't want to follow the mathematical or the literacy goal that was the adult intention in the game. They just wanted to invent their own rules and take the game their own way. So then I started thinking, okay, well, no, children not always learn through play. And for me, the eureka moment was when I was reading the Mendiza and Joseph Chilton Pearce book, Magical Parent, Magical Child. And they talk about learning is a state-specific process. Yeah, it's not the activity what we do, it's the state of mind we are
of which
at.
we do it.
Yes. So they said it's the playful state of mind that is important in learning. And I was like, I was reading the book when we were on a ferry from Ibiza to Spain at that time. And I was like sitting and looking at the sea, and I actually saw a dolphin. And I had this moment, God, now I understand it. Now I understand it. I'm not meant to inventing games for our children. I mean, if I want to, I can, but that's not the objective. I'm not meant to try to educate them through educational games. I need to create environment when they can be in a ideally constant state of playful mind, and they learn, they suck in the information, and they learn at their own speed, and they take from the environment what they need to learn. And the learning, what we usually describe as, oh no, it's a very difficult process, and you have to sit down and you have to concentrate, and sometimes it can be boring, but you have to go through it because that's how we do it. No, the learning then becomes a very playful process. So let's say with Lola, I gave up on forcing her to learn maths, addition and minus, and I always waited for her to kind of tell me that she wants to learn. And within 3 days, because it was like she was in that playful process and she enjoyed it and she felt that she enjoys it, she would make massive progress. Like something we didn't do in 6 months, in 3 days she would just expand.
Accelerated
and
learning.
Millie the same, at the age of 4 I tried to show her letters and teach her letter sounds and to show her how to write it. And Millie is quite
feisty.
No, she's quite determined,
Yeah.
she's quite stubborn. And she said, no, I don't want to read. I don't want to learn the letters. And I would say, darling, how do you want to learn to read? I don't want to read. I will be fine without reading. I don't need it. At the age of 4, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I can't talk Millie into things. I really have to wait for the moment when she makes the decision. And it was a year ago, and she was kind of picking the letter sounds and letters on as she was going. But a year ago she told me, you know what, Mommy, I think I should learn all the letters of alphabet. I really want to. So I said, okay, Millie, fine. So every morning when you come, when I'm making breakfast, we will practice the letters. It took her 3 days. So what I could have been doing when she was 4, in a great pain, pushing her, making her practice. We have to practice letter sounds. We have to practice letter sounds. When she was 6, she just did it in 3 days. And she absolutely enjoyed it. She pushed me she told me, Mommy, come on, we have to practice my letter sounds. Mommy, come on. She wouldn't leave me alone. She was nagging me. So, and in 3 days she did it, because learning those letters wasn't a painful process for her. She was in a playful state of mind. She enjoyed it.
And you hadn't pushed her, so it didn't become a negative connotation
I did
towards
it because
learning.
she asked me, yeah. So that, and of course then people think, okay, when child is in a sandpit or with Play-Doh, or like Tallulah is now sticking stickers, she's playing. But Lola, when she's discussing with me ancient times and she wants to learn about Egyptians, that's learning. So that's what we say, that this is playing, that's learning. But for me, if you describe it, they're in a playful state of mind. All is playing and all is learning.
It's one.
So if a child is in a playful state of mind doing something with Play-Doh, or a child is in a playful state of mind talking about Egyptians and making timeline and discovering, and Lola likes reading now, that's still playful state of mind.
Yeah.
You know? So I personally don't think there is different in it. And if we keep that ability going until we are adults, like, do you think you are doing something very difficult, or is a struggle for you to be interested in what you're doing and presenting it to your clients and being
I don't know, I find this interview really tough right now.
Or Chris, right, when he was talking about his taking photos, and I mean, Chris was describing it like there was a period of time when he didn't feel like waking up and he didn't feel like going to the football pitch and taking photos, but you believe in it and you love it and you have passion for it, so you overcome that struggle that, or maybe today I don't want to wake up, but like you, let's say, maybe you don't want to wake up and go for a run, but because you're so passionate about it, you do wake up and you are self-disciplined, but you're still in a playful state. Nobody's pushing you. Nobody's telling you that you have to do it, you know? Nobody's telling you, Tony, you have to do this and you have to do that because that's real life and real life is tough. You enjoy your life. You enjoy your career. And there are good days and there are bad days, of course. But generally, you're happy. And you feel satisfaction, you feel happiness. And that's what children do. And we shouldn't be taking it away from them.
Yeah, and I think all people can relate to that. Like if you're learning something in particular and you're really, really enthralled, you just this is so amazing.
Yes.
You just suck it in. You remember so much of it. Yeah. And that's kind of my learning. You always say, like, how do you manage to remember all this stuff? And it's because I enter it within that state. But
because you're in a playful state of mind.
Now we're calling it flow state, but really it's like it's a playful state of mind, isn't it?
For me, it's the same.
And it's stretching that for as long as you possibly can.
Or like,
so
let's say,
what we find is, there is a culling of that, isn't there? If you think so. Let's say the conventional educational model, what it can do to that process, because it can, if you had a classroom with 30 kids, let's say, and there were 3 kids in that classroom going, yeah, it's amazing. This is like, they're absorbing it like I would be absorbing it because they're really, really interested in it. But there's other kids in that classroom that are not getting it.
Yeah.
And then there can be that negative, it's, why aren't I getting this? What's wrong with me? It can be the comparison, and that's where we bring the competition, comparison, inadequacies can all be risen there.
Yeah.
But there's a layering system, isn't there, for learning anyway? So like the 3 years up until the age of 7 when we should be learning abstract. Can you expand on that?
Okay, so at the beginning, children are everything they learn has to come through their senses.
Yeah.
So let's say the infant learns through senses and through movement. Movement and brain development are really closely related.
Yeah.
As children grow, so let's say between the age of 2 and 7, is again, they need everything, they need to learn through everything they can touch. Yes? That's why, let's say, Montessori nurseries, that's what I liked about them, because they don't learn anything, they don't teach children anything beyond their senses. Everything what is in your nearest environment, what you can see, what you can touch, what you can smell, that's what children want to learn. And then between the age of 7 and 11, they can expand a bit. So let's say they can do calculations, but they don't really, like a 4-year-old will count beads or will count finger. 8-year-old can start doing calculations a little bit in their head. So they, let's say 33 plus 47, they don't need to see those beads, but they can do it in their head. So, you know, the mind moves more towards abstract, but whatever they learn is still needs to be closely related with their reality. So, like learning about the world. Like, let's say 8-year-old can imagine that there are other continents. 3-year-old wants to learn just what is in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
But 8-year-old, yes, you can say yes, that there is actually different continents, there are different seas, so they understand the map. They understand the map can be representation of a wider world, yes? But it's still learning from the map or learning about history is still quite concrete and attached with their life. It's not physics, it's not chemistry.
Yeah.
And the abstract thinking really starts after the age of 11, slowly. And apparently to Joseph Chilton Pierce, the final stage when the brain stops, kind of is, not stops, but when we hit the final stage of our growth, that's around
like the evolution.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happens?
So the
around
abstract ability of thinking, and then let's say teenager, like 15-year-old child can say, I think about my thinking. So they think and they analyze their thinking. Yes, so it's quite abstract. And then like ability to understand meditation or, you know, go further into really abstract realm that starts, you know, after the age of 20, 21, I would say.
Yeah, which is then comes down to that, again, you know, Peter Gray's saying it's up until the age of 16 is what they're learning about their environment. So if Joseph Chilton Pierce is saying 15, then that's when they can cross over into maybe that adult realm. That would be the time period.
Adult realm, let's call it abstract realm.
Abstract realm, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but as you mentioned it, what I want to mention, so writing and reading, now children are pushed to read or at least recognize letters at the age of 4 in nurseries, whereas reading is very abstract mechanism, because for us the shape of a letter represents a sound, and many letters together represent the word, and the word represents certain reality. But for a child, it's just a black line on a piece of paper. So that child doesn't understand why adults want me to understand that this curly shape is A, or that curly shape is B, or like they get confused with D, B, P, and Q. And some kids may be fine with it, but some kids are just, like Millie, she just was so frustrated with it. And also, every adult has got slightly different handwriting, and she would be confused why daddy's P is different to mommy's P, you know? So it's important, and Joseph Chilton Pierce emphasizes it quite a lot. We shouldn't be pushing the abstract thinking on young children. We really don't have to worry if they don't read or don't show any interest in reading at the age of 4 or 5 or 6, and Rudolf Steiner wouldn't be worried until the age of 9.
Yeah, which if we go in some of the countries with the best educational system, it's that model, isn't it?
Well, I wasn't introduced to alphabet until I was 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it works in some countries. Yeah.
Just here. But
I don't know why in the UK
but it's
it's pushed so
changing, though. It
early.
is changing. We just got to look at Forest School, for instance. I mean, they're starting to understand that,
Yeah, I guess so.
you know, outdoor time's much more valuable.
Yes.
You know, playtime's more valuable.
Yeah.
And so it's only going to expand, isn't it, and grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think... let's talk about unschooling then.
Okay. So unschooling.
Yeah, let's define unschooling. What is unschooling? What's the difference between homeschooling and unschooling? Because I say, oh, yeah, we unschool. And people say, yeah, but, oh, you homeschool. No, we unschool. What's unschooling?
So the legal term is educating children at home. So in UK, you've got legal right to educate your child at home. So after the age of 5, they need to receive education. So you can send them to school or private school, or you can choose to educate them at home. Mm-hmm. And then the philosophy or the form of education parents choose can be schooling or homeschooling, which homeschooling means you bring school home.
There's
so
a
you
curriculum.
You can actually download curriculum, you can apply for all the exams, you can put your child through all the key stage 1, key stage 2 exams, you can do GCSE, everything. You can follow the curriculum and you can do it at home. So it's like you are homeschooling. And if you can't do it yourself, you can hire tutors coming to your home, you can have a little timetable on the wall. I don't know anybody doing it that way. I think most of the parents who decide to homeschool, they go more for the follow the child philosophy. They like the fact that they want to follow, they want to listen to the child, they want to be told by the child when they're ready to learn and what they want to learn. So it would be more the Montessori way or Rudolf Steiner way. And, or like, let's say there is a term, I don't know, I forgot.
Doesn't matter.
But unschooling means unschooling. So let's forget what's happening in the schools. Let's forget timetables. Let's forget structure. Let's forget parents telling children what to learn. Let's unschool. Let's...
Unstructured.
Yeah, unstructured. Let's follow the child. There is one thing we should talk about is because many unschoolers, or called more radical unschoolers, they believe that children can regulate their needs and choose the right thing for them in all the areas, not just in education. So they would say children can wake up when they want to, they can go to bed when they want to, they can choose eat food they want to, and they even push it so far. They say a child should be allowed to watch as much TV and play computer games as much as they want to, because that's the way how they learn to self-regulate. And for me, unschooling is is a natural learning. So if you think about how children learn in tribes, in that lovely environment, the child makes the choices, and the adults respect the child because they believe that the child knows what they want and what they need. But that's nature.
It's a huge...
I wouldn't have problem for my children in nature to do whatever they want and whatever they need. I would completely, fully trust them. But we don't live in nature. So we have to be a little bit careful. So let's say in the continuum concept, Jean Lidlow was describing that in a tribe, 2-year-old children would stroll towards a cliff, look down the cliff, and roll back to parents. The parents have so much trust in their child. My child knows what they're doing. They're not going to fall or jump down the cliff. They will come back, you know. But let's say if we wanted to apply the same to the staircase or to windows or to cars on the street, we can't. I can't leave 2-year-old just stroll happily on the street because the 2-year-old will get hit by a car.
Because the car's the unnatural...
Because it's unnatural,
yes.
Or window is unnatural. You know, window gives children, or staircase gives children impression that they are safe, and yet they are not safe. Whereas the cliff, it's very clear. They perceive it very clearly that the cliff is not safe. I'm not going to jump down there. Window, staircase, or cars are not. So we have to actually tell children and stop them from running on the streets, and we can't do it. We can't afford to do it. So to me, unschooling is the best form of natural education for a busy mother. I love the Montessori philosophy, or you know, all the democratic schools presented. But for me as a mother who is at home and who is busy, for me unschooling is the best natural way of educating our children. But I'm the one who has to be careful with the environment.
But it comes back to environment again.
Yeah,
the
because
environment
I'm
you
not
set
unschooling.
up.
I'm not unschooling in a natural environment. There is screen, there are computer games, there is sugar in the shops.
Food supply.
Yes, and I would love to trust my children with the choices, but I can't. I feel I can't. I have to teach them how to protect themselves from watching too much TV or playing too many computer days or ending up eating too much junk food.
Yeah, because we only have to look at our own addictions with mobile devices.
Adults have problem with
typing
it,
and
right?
swiping.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm having to do something to build a social media following, which meant more time on social media, which has meant I have to now put things in place. I have to boundary it. Otherwise, I just get lost in it. It can be like half an hour. If you give that to a child in developing brain, which could be then in emotional development stage, and they have an emotional attachment to the device, which would be stronger than mine, because that's their emotional layering of their brain, right? Which is the same as the TV. And I think it's again, that's like dopamine again. It's that they
again, so let's say if Millie tells me she wants to climb trees 4 hours a day, or they want to paint every day, or they want to play every day, or they want to play pretending games every day, and for 6 months they may not show any interest in mathematics or literacy, I don't panic.
No.
But if they tell me they want to watch TV every day for 2 hours or more, I do panic. I don't like it. That's why we have no screen time during the week.
Well, we don't have a TV.
Because and we don't have computer games and I don't allow them to buy whatever they want to in the shop, because I feel like I have to teach them, come on, because there is too much sugar. And
because the food supply has been manipulated to get people addicted to the food source, right?
So if somebody imagines that when we say we are unschooling and our children just, spend most of the time watching TV whole day and they're quite a mess, and it's not like that. Our life is very calm. It's actually, we don't create structure, our children create their own structure, right? Like Lola exercises now every morning. Yeah. She said, Daddy told me these exercises are good for me every morning. She does it herself from her own self-discipline. She does it. Millie does it every day. Lola pushes me. She tells me, come on, Mommy, let's learn more. Let's do more of this. Let's do more of that. Millie does it. They tell me what they want to learn about. So, in the right environment, in the right stimulative, natural environment, for me, unschooling is the most natural way.
Yes, so your responsibility is the environment.
Is to control the environment.
Yeah.
And I just let my children to be.
And then to be able to step back.
And then I can trust the child.
And then be available for, here's the question. I need to know about this. And then you're available for that, which then it should expand that knowledge in that moment in time. Yeah.
Or let's say sometimes I feel they get a bit bored and I feel like I need to, maybe they need more books or they need to meet with more friends. And, so again, I just want to create a stimulative environment for them, a change. So they shouldn't be bored. They don't need to be bored.
Yeah. And it's empowering, right? I mean, that's the thing about it. I mean, watching Lola just reading now, her reading just accelerated. Yeah. Like she smashed through that whole series of books, and I'd come back and I bought a book. I bought a book in the morning. I came back by the evening. She'd finished it. Then she went on to Norse myths, right? She read the Norse myths, Arabian Nights. Now she wants Greek myths. It's just expanding and expanding and expanding.
And we never forced her. We never told her she has to practice reading every day. So
just absorbent, wanting to learn.
Yeah.
Let's go back into food, because there's something you wrote about and I loved it, and it was about foraging. Do you remember?
Okay. So again,
this is brilliant.
Because I like
guys,
comparing.
Love this.
Yeah, I always like comparing my life. Okay, so what would those people in nature do? What would they do? What would they, I kind of.
You can see why I love this woman now, right?
And that's why I like the Peter Gray book. We like it, the Free to Learn book, because the democratic schools were designed. No, I think he's got a chapter. He calls it "Nature Can Prevail in Modern Times," and I love that statement. Yeah. Nature can prevail in modern times, in education, in the way we eat, in the way we move, in the way we sleep, in the way we treat babies. So I always look what is it the nature? What is it the nature that I can practice in modern times? So with the food, I thought, nature is not deceptive. So apparently, if you eat something, if you try a berry that is poisonous or is not ripe, you don't enjoy the taste on your tongue and you spit it out. Yeah? Or tribes have their own wisdom. They pass on their children. Okay, these plants are poisonous, don't pick them. But these plants are now ripe. We eat those, let's pick those. And actually, the elder in the tribes do educate their children.
And we're talking about thousands of plants now. Yeah.
Yes, they learn from adults what plants to eat, when to pick them, how to pick them, how to, again, prepare them. And but nature is not deceptive, yes? So there is nothing that would look tempting and lovely and sweet and taste lovely and sweet, and it
That
would,
you had to turn the leaf
and yet
over.
it would be a poison for you,
Yeah.
right? Whereas modern world is very deceptive for our children. So when we were describing the ability of abstract thinking and the concreteness and the way how children relate to their senses, there are products in the supermarket that absolutely appeal to child senses. The picture, the texture, the wrapping, the shape of the food, the taste of it, which is not, these days is not even sugar, it's more than sugar. From a little portion you get hit of fructose and glucose, to the point that you wouldn't actually nature. Yeah, so it really appeals to their taste, and but it doesn't look dangerous. To a 4-year-old child, it doesn't look dangerous. So they go for it and they eat it and they ask for it. It's my brain of an adult person who is able to think abstractly. Okay, so I know what the sugar might be doing in their blood, and the peak and fall and the dopamine response. But try to sit with a 4-year-old and discuss these things. They may listen to you, but they say, okay, so can we have sweets for Halloween, like my friend? It's not. Yeah. They don't have ability to understand it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I feel like the elder in the tribe would educate the child on what plants to pick and not to pick. I feel I have to really protect my children from the hidden poison in some food and educate them appropriately, because conversation with Tallulah, I just tell Tallulah, it's not good for your tummy, we don't buy it. Let's buy something that's good for your tummy. And I think that's about that. But with Lola and Millie, you can go deeper. You can discuss things. You can talk about sugars. You can talk about preservatives and
inflammatory
colorings. And, you can talk about the moral of the company. You can talk about ethics. You can talk about sustainability. And slowly, they may not, like, let's say, they would say, oh, mommy, I'm still tempted by the food. But they slowly understand that you as a parent want actually something good for them. So that's why I made that comparison, that if I go to supermarket, I shouldn't just give my children, or you just buy whatever you want to. I feel like I have to educate them. Look, make choice from these products because they're okay for you, but don't buy those products. Learn how to read the ingredients, what is in there.
Yeah, which goes back to that original conversation around unschooling, which some people within unschooling would say, they're entitled to go into the supermarket. Just give me a debit card and go and smash whatever they want to buy. But it's not a natural environment, not a natural habitat.
No,
so
we have to be smarter than that.
Apply a natural filter to it, can you?
Yeah.
I love that.
So I guess, has it answered the agenda you had on talking about me and going to supermarket? And I compared it to the natural world, right? Yeah.
No, it's perfect. It's exactly what was in the post.
It's the education we have to give them.
Yeah, because again, it comes down to social
norms.
Let's
not allow them to eat poisonous plants. Let's not allow them to eat a hidden I mean, they're not going to die, I know, but we could argue.
And I guess and the most important thing out of that, as it goes into social norms and biological norms again, and what is in nature and what is in, let's call it the human zoo, right? But also, you can't afford to be a hypocrite. Do you know what I mean?
But we don't eat that food. We are not.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not like you can say that's the worst thing you can do to a child is then say, right, okay, no, we don't eat this and we don't eat that, and then you end up eating it as an adult and then say to the kids, oh, you can't eat this. It's just that's not appropriate.
And so that's why it's such a problem for so many parents, because it's the parents who enjoy that food.
Well, that's because that's been given to them in their first years, right? So their first developmental years.
And I went through that journey myself, I used to wait for Lola to fall asleep so I can have my chocolate. But then I had to change it. Right. How much time do we have?
Loads of time, darling. We're going to go for another hour. Can you cope with that?
Tallulah can cope, I can cope.
So unschooling, we moved through unschooling. And you're... no, we don't. You know what we didn't cover? We didn't go into... no nappies, because I said we'd go back to it.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is talking about that innate ability between mother and child, really.
Yeah.
It's okay. Do you want to hit them with it? The no nappy.
Well, I wasn't brave. I knew about it, but I wasn't brave enough to do it with Lola and Millie. And I guess with Tallulah, I kind of felt to challenge myself a bit. No, I just wanted to try it, actually, because I read this book, Elimination, Communication.
Yeah.
And they claimed, in that book, they claimed that the child, just like they give us a cues that they want to breastfeed or they need to sleep, that they're overtired, they give us some cues that they need to go to toilet. And of course, the child doesn't understand the feeling to start with. What is it going on in their bladder, in their bowels? They don't know what it is. But slowly, because of the communication, they learn, okay, that's what it is. I need to go to toilet. So I was just I found it absolutely fascinating. So I thought, if we have another child, before we had Tallulah, I thought, if we have another child, I'm going to try it. I want to know, does the baby really lets me know when she needs to go to toilet? So luckily Tallulah was born in May, which is a warm month. June, July were more warm months. I wouldn't do it in January, to be honest with you. You're tired. Do you want some snacks?
Okay, there we go. There we go, peeps.
You want milk? Yeah. Okay, she wants milk.
Okay. Well, listen. So we pause, should we? Yeah. We're gonna pause. Tallulah's gonna have some milk. There we go. True natural parenting style. There we are.
Okay, so back to nappies. And also what I liked in the book was that they described that we condition children to go in the nappies.
Yeah.
Yeah, they described it as conditioning. Because if they give us cues and signals, I need toilet, and we don't take them in a nearby bush or to toilet, we leave them in the nappies, we don't respond to the cue, they realize, okay, I don't have any other choice, I have to go now, and that is the nappy. So they learn, okay, that's what I'm expected to do. I am expected to go in the nappy. So we condition them to go to toilet in the nappy, and then when they're older, again, we have to condition them or train them to not to go in the nappy. Yes? Which we do conditioning twice, and we could just be smart. Nature is smart, and we could just learn how to follow
Cues.
the babies, listen to the cues. So I really wanted to try it and see how it goes, and we were all surprised when we knew.
Yeah.
I knew. She was like Tallulah, she just started fidgeting, and again, little movements, and I knew she needed to go to toilet, and it went... even children learn how to pick up on it. Do you remember? Even you did.
Yeah.
She was on a blanket.
And I was around the least, right? So
Yes.
for me, I'd say, okay, she needs the loo now.
Yeah, she was on a blanket, and we just, she needs loo, and we picked her up, and we, used the potty. So it was amazing how I wasn't that brave enough not to have her in a nappy when I went into town.
Yeah.
So when she was in the sling and I went shopping.
But because there's too many distractions anyway, right?
Yes, too many. And again, it's not like we live in nature, right? So it's not on the buses or on the tube. That's not nature.
But you can't expect to get those same cues or for her cues to be there if you're in that kind of environment, right?
So I wasn't that brave, but when we were around or in the garden or in the park, yes, I had her outside of the nappies. And then she started moving and walking.
Really early.
Yes, and I think that's when I spoke to other moms, they said that they lived in a community, and the husband was always around, or mom was always around, grandma was there. So all the adults around would pick up on, because the baby starts moving and walking and crawling. Mom doesn't see the baby all the time, but there would be all the other adults helping to read the cues and taking the baby to the toilet. But there was time when I was on my own in Ibiza, and Tallulah was walking, so I didn't manage to pick on all the cues. Luckily, it was hot, and we didn't have any carpets.
Well, Ibiza was very much like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I understood the limitations of the... Again, I understood the limitations. We are not in nature. We don't live in a tribe. So yes, we sometimes need those nappies. It makes our life more convenient and easier. Yeah, mom on her own with 3 children, that's my limitation.
But isn't it amazing? Because it goes back into those senses again. It's almost like the baby senses book, that you're enabling them to expand on those innate abilities, those senses. So it's us picking up on the fact they need to go, but their feeling is getting stronger and stronger at the same time. So their signal gets stronger.
Yeah.
And that's why I could interpret it, the girls could interpret it. But it starts off with the mother.
Yeah.
And then you're enabling that to grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah. I'm fascinating, right?
It
Imagine
really is.
Children never in nappies, right?
And it's also alarming, isn't it? Because we put so much trust in, say, our dogs and our cats, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we can litter tray them in a short period of time and help them understand to go to the toilet. But the most intelligent species on the planet, we wouldn't accept that as the norm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And try to dumb down that innate
sense. It's fascinating. But at the same time, I think from all the things we do, like breastfeeding, co-sleeping, carrying, natural birth, I find the nappy-free baby as the most challenging because of the environment. Yeah, like to be during winter to go traveling and
also if you had carpets,
carpets,
you're done, aren't you? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, but then that's what I like about the Elimination communication book, that the author, I don't know her name, I forgot. She describes it as in a very friendly way. So she calls the communication doesn't mean that you have baby out of nappies as soon as they are born. The communication means, let's say, for your own convenience, you can have baby in a nappy for 6 or 9 months, and then it's summer months and you experiment. You kind of let the baby be and you relax and you follow the cues and you don't panic if they even say we shouldn't use the word accident, but if it doesn't go in the toilet, if it goes on the floor, you just wipe it and relax. Really, don't create any panic around it. Or you can be flexible. You can have baby in a nappy when you go out, but when you are at home, you keep the baby naked just to allow yourself and the baby a bit of the understanding and communication. So that's what I like about the book. Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to be out of nappies 100%. It means just be flexible, don't be afraid, experiment. And actually, with Millie, I didn't know about this communication, but Millie she was 18 months, no, she was 20 months old. And because she had older sister, one day, Millie, she just ripped her nappy and she said, that's it. And she climbed on the toilet and she was determined not to wear nappies anymore. So had I been scared and afraid, because it's not like first 2-3 weeks, I was just wiping the floor. She didn't do anything in the toilet. But yet, because I wasn't scared, I didn't force her to wear nappy. I didn't say, no, darling, you can't do it. You have too many accidents. You have to wear nappy for longer. Intuitively, I just knew that would be the wrong thing to do. So I just relaxed. I just let her to do it on the floor. And after 2 weeks, she slowly started building up. And Millie was out of nappies without following any method. She was 2 years old and she was out of nappies during the night, during the day, completely reliable.
Yeah.
And Tallulah was the same.
Yeah.
So with Tallulah, we followed the nappy-free method. With Millie, we didn't. But in a way, they hit the stage when they're completely reliable and they actually tell you, Mommy, I need to go to toilet, because they are 2 years old. I would say the result was pretty much the same. So that's the beauty of the communication. Just communicate with your child. If at 18 months they show interest, don't panic, don't worry about wiping the floor. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't panic and say, oh, the child is not ready. That's what usually parents would do. They feel embarrassed and they panic.
It comes down to embarrassment and also what others are thinking.
Yeah, just take spare clothes with you, and don't worry what other people are thinking. Other people don't understand it anyway.
No, exactly.
It's just like, I'm not going to disempower my child just because other people don't understand that she's got an accident on the street. Well, I wipe it, I take water with me, and baby pee is apparently more, is quite antiseptic.
Yep.
So we tolerate, like you said, pets on the street, and we panic when a baby has got wet trousers on the street. What's the problem, really? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, that is the problem.
Well, not for me.
No, I mean, it is the problem that it's being judged, right?
Yeah.
That is the problem.
Just chill.
Just chill.
Let your children just,
Just chill.
do it their own way.
I like that. Talking of chilling. So for any new, I think we're gonna wrap up soon. So if any new mums, new parents considering having a baby or are already pregnant, let's think of what 3 tips you can give them. Empowering tips. I was going to put you on the spot now. There you go.
So before they have children, I would say learn how to look after yourself and be healthy is very important. We didn't discuss much of it, but the microbiome and looking after your own gut, and apparently what mother eats in the pregnancy influences the quality of milk tooth. What a child eats for 6 years influences the quality of adult tooth,
Their milk teeth and their adult teeth, yeah?
Like we haven't discussed that, but there is the tooth care again, another big topic we could go into.
Okay, expand on it, go.
Well, okay, let's do those 3 tips first and then we can expand. So looking after your own health and trying to understand your own body is a good start, because many parents go on the journey of healthy lifestyle when they have older children, and that's more difficult because you have to change habits of the children, you have to change your own habits, It's good just to create your nice healthy habits, look after learn about your gut, learn about what you eat before you have children. Everybody should do it, really. We did it before we had children. So it's the health. And second tip would be just learn how to trust yourself and discover your innate abilities and listen to those inner feelings that are inside of you. Because there is lots of fear, right? And even like I learned a lot with Lola because she was first baby, and rationally I would like read lots of books and I would look for some kind of a research and evidence that can support, is this co-sleeping is this really okay? Is there any research? Is there any evidence? That's all good, but don't be afraid to listen to your inner feelings. Don't be afraid to listen to it. Because that's what I had to actually learn. I had to learn with my child to trust myself, to trust that what I feel in my heart is actually good. So that would be tip number 2. And tip number 3, be always open-minded and be always in that state of beginner mind. Never stop learning.
Nice.
Constantly learn as a parent. Never assume, okay, now I have achieved some kind of a knowledge, now I know what to do.
Challenge it. No,
don't be afraid to challenge it, and sometimes even with the continuum concept, we love the book so much, but we notice there's, for us or for our lifestyle, there are some limitations. Try things. Some things may not even work for you, but don't be afraid to challenge it. Don't be afraid to admit or to say, well, it's a lovely theory, but it may not work for me. Don't be scared of that. Try different things, or don't be afraid to say I made a mistake and I want to try again, or I want to try something else. It's a bit like when you talk about eating habits, and people may be confused. Okay, so what is it we are meant to eat? And you say, well, don't be afraid. Just try different things. Find your own journey. Just eat like you say, I eat like Tony. So again, as a parent, don't be afraid. Just become yourself. Yeah. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I know what mistakes I made with our kids, but I'm not afraid to learn from it and to move on and to learn again.
Well, that's where the learning is, in the mistake, right? As we discussed, who do you have to observe anyway?
Yeah.
Who's showing you the appropriate behaviour?
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we have to learn from mistakes at this stage.
Yeah. So
But
it's a
that's why
journey.
this is so
Parenting is a
important.
journey.
This is so important.
Yeah.
And we live in a bit of a bubble with what we do.
And also, when I didn't know what to do, I just was like in a state like, please just somebody tell me and come and tell me what exactly I am meant to do. When my baby's crying or this and that, I want somebody to tell me what to do, but that doesn't exist. You know, nobody will tell you exactly what to do. We can listen to other people, we can get inspired, we can look some for advice. And of course, there are many books with amazing information or background in psychology can help. But in the end, you just have to go your own journey. Don't be afraid to discover for yourself what to do.
But I think there are some great books. So I think,
of course, there are.
I think that continuum concept is really worth reading. I think Magical Child is really empowering. I think that's almost like a Bible for anyone that's about to consider having children.
Yeah, but for many people,
children.
that's still quite philosophical, you know. Some people want to know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think they shouldn't be afraid to discover for themselves what exactly to do. I don't know whether it makes any sense.
Well, with having nature as a filter, going back to that, right?
Be like nature as a filter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mrs. Riddle. How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy it?
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
I'm not sure how Chris's weMove clients can relate to it.
Well, they're listening still. It's a wrap.
Is it?
Yeah, I think they're going to love it.
I thought you wanted to discuss something about movement and parenting. Shall we go into that?
Yeah, but you know.
It's done. Yeah?
Round 2, we'll save it.
Okay.
There's lots to talk about movement, but I had a feeling that if I went down the path of movement, you'd say, well, that's more like your field, like you did with lighting. So I just thought, I'm going to leave that. I'll leave it. There's plenty there. There's enough there.
Yeah, but that's our kind of cooperation.
Talking.
That's our cooperation, right?
Yeah, that's how it works.
Your field, my field, and our kids, right?
Yeah, left field. Anyway, peace. See ya.